Hello, welcome to another Keyframe Coach with me, Fernie. So this is a shot by Ozner. Hope I'm pronouncing that right, Ozner. And he says, "Hi, I kind of reached a roadblock in my animation. Always had a hard time towards polishing and hoping that some notes could help me see where I'm lacking. Also, I wouldn't mind if you had any additional ideas that could make the shot better, or if you have any thoughts on the timing between the actions." Cool. Well, thanks for sending the shot in, Ozner. I'm going to just hide my sketches that I've already done. I'm going to try something a bit different with this one. You'll notice that the video is a bit shorter, and I've basically done all of my sketches and gone through my own thoughts before recording. So then essentially the recording is going to be, here are the notes, rather than seeing a lot more arming and R-ing and me thinking. But let me know if you guys like those long videos and you like to see the thought process. I mean, I feel like this is going to be a bit more consumable, a bit more helpful to the people getting their work reviewed. So yeah, just let me know what you guys think. So I'll play through the shot. Nice. So a very developed shot, deep into spline and polish. Got some stormtroopers, and I won't embarrass myself by trying to name the guy. I'm assuming a bounty hunter. Could be the Mandalorian, but possibly not. There you go. Embarrassed myself anyway. But very nice. Great start. So I had a few thoughts. Turn on tracing paper. And turn my sketches back on. So the initial first thoughts I had was on the staging of the animation. I feel like you could probably have this guy a little higher and possibly even get like a bit more of a silhouette on him peeing. Just because the first time I watched it, I kind of missed that completely. Actually, I watched it like 2 or 3 times and I missed that. So anything we can do to kind of like, as if he's maybe just standing on the edge of a ledge or something, and peeing over the side. So obviously we don't have to animate a big puddle coming down from there. But it will also help to get him more on a third, you know? So if the thirds are like here or something, you know, this kind of area is a bit more on a third. It kind of draws our attention more to that. And also having this guy more on a third, I think would be helpful, just to get a bit of a nicer composition. But also it gives you room to then, when the guy gets kicked through, so when he gets kicked through, it gives you some room to progress him forward through the screen space and also have him end up in the middle so that we're not obscuring this guy when we get over here. So this guy does some acting in this moment. It would be nice if that was in the middle and this guy wasn't being obscured, so that we can, again, just have our eye a little bit more focused on him so that we read what he's doing. Not to mention, I feel like the composition of this is maybe just a bit nicer. You sort of get 1, 2, 3. This guy's in the middle. This guy's on a third. This guy's on a third. Kind of an interesting composition. But it's more for clarity of this guy. So just going through my notes that I've written. I feel like at the start, this guy is just a little bit passive. We kind of watch it without my notes turned on. It feels like he's just waiting for something to happen. I feel like that you could get a little bit more story in there. The other guy's taking a break, clearly. So maybe this guy could be, you know, just keeping watch, or you could go the other way where he's kind of like being like, oh, this guy always taking breaks, or just something to get a bit more character in there. At the moment, he just seems like he's just standing there looking into the distance. So you could possibly have him, you know, looking over at the guy, being like, oh, come on. Or, you know, looking over and just, I don't know, being a bit weird. Or you could have him, you know, looking down at his gun. He's just checking things. Just because I feel like if he was on guard and like standing guard, it's a little bit strange to me that he then, when he hears something coming, he doesn't kind of lead with his gun. He doesn't go, what's that? And lead with his gun. So if he's a bit more off guard, then he might go, huh? And then react with his gun, which he does. So rather than changing this to be a bit more like, huh? What's like he's got this nervous energy as if he's keeping guard, I'd probably just lean into the storytelling of him not being ready. You know, maybe he's on a break himself. He could even be like, have the gun on his shoulder, or, you know, maybe not. But I think having a head move or just having a different posture would kind of help with that, just to get him a bit less kind of standard, not really doing anything, waiting for something to happen. In this head move, I feel like the head kind of moves quite isolated. You do get some chest move in after. I feel like that should not necessarily happen at the same time, but at the moment, this head move is feeling quite isolated, and I would like to see the chest just come up a little bit just to feel that connection of him looking up. At the moment, you've kind of got like a head move and then the chest moves completely separately, which is just feeling a bit disconnected. And the same thing with this head move. Just got to make sure to get your moves connected in there. Let me just turn off tracing paper so we can see a bit clearer. So you're doing like this much spacing with the head, and this is almost staying completely still. You'd expect there to just be a bit more connection in there. I'm not saying move everything one-to-one so that he's just moving from the chest and the head is completely isolated, but you have to feel some kind of connection in there. And at the moment, they're just a bit too offset, so they are actually feeling disconnected. You see here where the head kind of gets to its final position, and then the chest is kind of doing a lot of spacing. I would just pay more attention to what the chest is doing in there and make that feel a bit more natural. Like if the head is coming down, the chest is probably going to echo that, and it's all connected. So just focus on getting that feeling a bit more connected. It will really help with the polish. So I thought here, if we frame him to be more on a third, that would be nice, because then he can obviously come forward into shot. But I also thought it'd be nice, you see how we have like kind of a straight line coming in? Whatever you can do to clean that up and get that shape just as clear as possible. Like maybe even that, so it's like an arrow is coming down, you see? Just all about shape and kind of leading that eye. And then we can kind of get a bit more squash and stretch in the guy coming in. So he's basically a straight line coming through here. All his weight is being pushed into the guy and coming into a nice big down. And he can kind of end up in a screen space which is even further over. So he kind of progresses through screen space. He's the other guy was standing about here. So you can tell quite clearly the guy has pushed him way out of screen space, because the guy started here. Now there's a guy standing here. Like he's pushed all the way through him. And then it would be nice to get the contrast between this pose and this pose by having him step back, so that he would again end up on a third. This guy gets up in the middle of screen, because if he gets pushed a little bit more forward, as I've drawn here, then it would kind of make sense for him to pop up again in the middle. We'd get a clearer read on this guy's acting as well. And this would just give us a nice, interesting framing where we've got 1, 2, 3 in here. Got a nice triangle to kind of guide our eye around. But also what it does, if the guy is here in this drawing here, if he's in this kind of screen space, it gives our eye less work and it's clearer to have him come back here, because the interest changes to this point here on the gun, you know, when he's in that final pose. So by coming from here in screen space, like this general area, and ending up, here, then we kind of end up in a similar place, right? Which is just a little clearer to our viewer. Now, it would be nice, in my opinion, if the gun would come up. So what felt a little off to me when I was playing it through is that the gun is kind of coming up and he's firing it at exactly the same time before the gun even reaches the top. I think it would be nice to kind of raise the gun and then see a little hold, like he's aiming at the head. He's being very clinical with it, a little. So it would be cool if we could just get a little hold on that. Maybe even this moment is taking a little too long to get his gun out, and it would actually be like raising by this point. So then by here, it's already held for maybe a couple of frames, and then we just get a nice recoil on the gun to really not just have the red coming out of the gun be what tells us the story, but also the kickback of the gun tell us, he shot something out of the gun. Back into that pose again. I want to talk about this guy and his beats, what's happening. So we just look at him and play through. He is obviously reacting pretty instantly to the gun. I feel like it would be nice to, at the moment, we're not reading him that clearly because he's here for one frame. We get one frame of nothing. And then he's instantly into his reaction. So I would have hold, shot, and then a couple of frames later, then he does his take, like, whoo! And then I would also maybe just keep the the P coming out, just because that's kind of funny, and then maybe have him like look down, and if you're gonna do this thing, have him maybe I was acting it out, maybe go and then do whatever business he needs to do, like, oh god, I need to get my gun out, quick. And this is like the action that you're doing does sell that, like the zip up. I just think you need a little longer to hold your beats. Just let it breathe a little more. It'll just add some more comedy to that. And it would be nice to get. So as he comes around, like it's like he's like, oh shit, and then he's kind of like fumbling, and then he maybe like shoots but doesn't aim properly, and he's messing it up. So maybe he doesn't just instantly hit the guy, but maybe he shoots past him, which therefore makes him react, and therefore go into this position where he's saving himself with his jetpack as a shield. Because at the moment he's just being shot on his shield, and that's kind of what pushes him. But I feel like this guy would kind of know the situation and know that he needs to take out this other guy as well, especially if he's just coming here. Like, it seems strange that he would not have seen this guy, so he's then surprised by him. So I think maybe that stuff needs a little bit of just a slight rethink in terms of what the characters are doing, where they're at, and what the story is. Just a little polishy thing right here. We kind of hit a wall with this gun. See that? Ooh. Just kind of stands out as like a bit of a visual pop. I thought here it would be a stronger pose to have this arm kind of down in this line of action through the arms. Just because this feels a little bit like out of control as a character. and there's not that cohesion in the story where I'm kind of feeling like he's a character that would be out of control. So I feel like you either want to have him out of control the whole time, which I don't feel that in the rest of the animation, or have him feel a bit more in control with his poses. Like, would he necessarily go and shoot his gun? Maybe not. Maybe he'd be like, oh, and then quite quickly shoot. Similar thing there with the aim and shoot. I'd probably get just a little bit of a hold in there, so it's like, so you just aim and then shoot, rather than like shoot as he's turning. And as he shoots, get just a bit more of that recoil on the gun. This head turn is just feeling a little bit too complex for me. I feel like his body goes down, so then his head going up. So this goes down right here. It goes from like here to here, while the head goes from maybe here. Sorry, draw in red so it's clearer. Here to up here. And I feel like you could connect those more if you have that arc of the head also go down. Not saying exactly exactly the same amount. So it's like just a very boring thing, but the amount of disconnect right now is just a bit too much, where he's got his chest going down, but his head is going up. So things are just feeling a little strained and a little bit like you've just tried to break things up, but with no real purpose in there. There needs to be a reason for him to either have his chest go down or his head go up. So if his head is coming up, like he's leading with his head, then the chest would support that and go with it. And I do feel like that could be an option. So instead of doing this big down, I would just maybe have a little down, like you kind of have here, if I'm looking at the top of that chest plate. And then through here, have that chest just start to come up. So I've drawn a lot of drawings on that frame, but the whole big note is make things feel more connected. So you don't have kind of a head going up while a chest is still going down through a whole move. And it's nice to break things up and change the shape for sure. Just got to make sure that there's connectivity still. And then a similar note for that arm pose is, I'm not sure that hands open are a great look for him. I feel like he would be a bit more like Action Man and fist. But I also feel like this hand being so up is maybe not super in keeping with his style. Like maybe he'd be a bit more stoic and hand down. And then when we come up here, it's kind of nice that he has this reaction. But I still think hands open is a bit like, whoa, I'm out of control and not in charge of the situation. I would be careful in here when you do the cool spinny stuff. Just making sure this doesn't tangent here with his armor. Just making sure you keep a clear silhouette. So whether that's kind of comes back and then through here, then extends his arm just a little, just to get that gun out further, keep a clear silhouette. And I like this stuff a lot. I love what you're doing with the smears. I think it's really cool. And the doubles as well, the multiples even. I just feel like it's all a little bit separated right now. So boom, boom, feels nice. But then he has this hold. And I feel like that might be fine. But me personally, I would like to see it like continue into what you have up here and over. Just because it's feeling so like he's doing a trick and then like having a moment to think about it and then doing another trick. Whereas if this was like an action film, he would kind of like shoot his last thing and then go and then put it away. You know, at the moment it's kind of like put it away. It's just like the rhythm is just a little bit too broken up. I would personally do it so that you have a move and then a move. I think that's fine. And then I would quite quickly go from something like this pose into what you have without those moves in between. So maybe it's like cutting from 184 to 191. Kind of do a move straight up and over. And then I think where you end here, I think there's a beat in there which doesn't need to be in there. I personally would end about here. So you do the big move over, end up in this pose, and then straight in. So you kind of do like a put away. Because at the moment it's kind of like, and then he does like an antic, put away. I feel like you could go straight into the antic, put away. That's much clearer to me. Like he's doing the move for a purpose. He's like, and then gets into the antic, and then it's just, rather than then being in an antic, and then anticing again to put the gun away, he could just go straight into it and pop it away. Pop the gun away. So just cut out this kind of beat that's happening here, which will give you a little more time to play with what the guy's doing over here with his beats. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was the anticipation for this pose. I feel like because he's zipping off quite fast, he's like doing an antic and then going away. You need to hold that antic for longer. So I would personally go down a bit further and have him hold this for maybe 4 frames longer, just so you get a nice kind of build up into the antic, and then he can kind of shoot out of that. So the quicker the movement out, the longer the antic you need to make for that movement. So if you watch like a big cartoony smear off screen, it'll be like a big whoa, and then just absolutely smear off in 2 frames. Whereas if you're quite slowly kind of walking over somewhere, then you might do like a little antic, and then where you just adjust your weight and then walk off somewhere. So the faster the move, the longer the antic needs to take, the bigger the build up for the momentum to make it feel believable and just feel nice. Because it's not totally unbelievable right now. It's not like someone would sit there and go, oh, that felt awful, you know, because he has got a jetpack, and I guess his momentum of that takes it away. It's just for animation clarity, you could definitely hold that for longer. Have this hold as essentially a beat down here. So he's kind of like charging up and then just flies off out of there. But anyway, that's all I have for now. Thank you very much for sending in this work to get reviewed. It's a very nice piece. Clearly tons of work gone into it, and I hope those notes help. Sorry, some of them are a bit vague, like, oh, just rework this bit, but hopefully what I've said will help with that. Obviously, the time for this is limited, so I can't go into 2 hours of detail on every single thing. But hopefully that helped, and anyone else out there looking for a review of their animation work, check out Keyframe Coach. Thanks a lot, guys.